Hi, and welcome to Upgraded Biology. My name is Dr. Tammy Moralia, and I'm your host. Upgraded Biology is the outcome of 20 years of practicing functional medicine and specializing in hormones. This podcast is where we will present all the information and tools I've learned and continue to learn on how to harmonize and optimize all aspects of your health. Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my medical practice, BioThrive, where I practice as a physician. It is, however, part of my desire to bring free information to the general public so that each listener is able to step more fully into their role as the CEO of their own health and upgrade their own biology. Boy, are you in for a treat today. You get to hear from one of my academic crushes. This man is brilliant. He not only is brilliant in the academic sense, where I'm going to share with you his published papers, his university appointments, his scientific articles, on and on and on, but he's also an entrepreneur in the way he thinks. He's expanding the way we look at the microbiome, that galaxy of bugs that are part of us. And really, they've been around since as long as we have. And so it is with my utmost delight to introduce Dr. Mahmoud Ghannoum. He is a PhD and a whole bunch of other letters after his name, so you have to go to the show notes to see those. And he's also the co-founder and chief scientific officer of a great company called Biome Health. And we're going to talk about that later too. He's a tenured professor and director of the Integrated Microbiome Core and Center for Medical Mycology, and at Case Western Reserve University and University Hospital's Cleveland Medical Center. Those are the fancy ones. He has published over 350 reviewed publications and 6 scientific books, and is on the top 1% of cited scientists worldwide established in a multidisciplinary center of excellence. He pioneered studies on the fungal communities residing in and on our bodies, and he coined the term Mycobiome. That's myco with a Y for the fungi. And we're going to learn a lot about why it's more than the bacteria in and on our bodies that matters. He was awarded the Rhoda Benham Award and the Freedom to Discover Award from Bristol Myers for his outstanding contributions to the fields of medical mycology and microbiome biofilms. What's that? Stay tuned. An entrepreneur scientist who has launched a number of companies focused on the treatment of biofilm infections, as well as microbial dysbiosis, and my academic crush. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Great. First of all, really appreciate. Thank you for your kind introduction. And I am really delighted to be with you in this podcast. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Well, if we had, a bottle of wine, a pot of tea, and 6 days, we might be able to scratch the surface of all you know. And it's not just, the scientific academic level, though that is true. You definitely have that going on and are a leader in that space. Excuse me, I'm just going to bring my microphone closer so everybody can hear me. But you're also down to earth in the day-to-day stuff that affects all of us with your company, the Biome, that we actually use in our clinic. So why don't we just dive into what the heck is the microbiome? Because I think a lot of people either don't know or they know, but they don't realize that it's not just bacteria, that there's fungi and phages, and there's actually viruses that live with us that are symbiotic. So please share what the heck is it and how does it affect our health? Why do we need this?
Well, really, as you said, this is really very exciting area of research, and also really start to be applied to our health, and hopefully over the years is gonna help us change the way we practice medicine and going towards more prevention than treatment. So let me start by saying, what is the microbiome? Microbiome is really all the microbes, the little critters or germs that live in our body and on our body. We all know, like whenever you before you eat, you want to wash your hands because we have germs in our hands. But what's exciting is we have these germs all over our body, in our hair, in our gut, in our skin, and in the gut. I tell you, there are 100 trillion
Oh,
bacteria as well as fungi there. So it's a huge number of microbes. Basically, we are more microbes than we are humans. you know,
wow. More than the stars in the galaxy.
exactly, exactly. And no, no, one thing which you alluded to is the fact that it's not only bacteria. For years, when I first started going to these talks about the microbiome, everybody is talking about bacteria. And then in 2010, I said, no, 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 listen, my friends. In addition to the bacteria, we have fungus that live in us. And how do we know that? And just to tell you a story, when I went to England to do my doctorate, my supervisor gave me a paper. He said, this is what you are going to do your PhD on. And what it is, it's really about if you use antibiotics, you kill the bacteria, guess what happens? We start to see an increase in fungus, such as thrush, for example. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why I start telling people, listen, in addition to bacteria, we have fungi, we have viruses, as you mentioned, and we have parasites. So we really need to study all of these because these organisms, they're living together, they can help us, but at the same time, if we don't take care of them, they can hurt us as well. And what's so delightful about this is recently the National Institute of Health came out with a concept paper saying the microbiome beyond bacteria, which means you have to start studying, in addition to bacteria, you need to look at the fungus as well as the viruses. So this is really a
Oh, that's
summary.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're learning about fungi and we don't really, it's funny, we really haven't paid attention to them yet. It's this like entire kingdom
It-
in the world. And we're finding out that they communicate, and so maybe it has something to do with the communication and the nervous system in our bodies and how it works. And I have always said, and this is my opinion, but when I've seen my patients in the last several years, I used to see a lot of patients with, for example, Parkinson's, and I always think, gosh, I think this is more to do with the gut than anything else. There's
yes.
so much function. But when we do testing, we're really just right now focusing on the bacteria. So it's great to hear that there are people like you out there that are focusing on the full picture. I feel like it's kind of like when we got back, we first discovered antibiotics. It's like, oh, yay, we have penicillin. It's going to help every infection. Then we realized, okay, this penicillin is great, but it doesn't help anaerobes. It doesn't help encapsulated bacteria. It doesn't help this. It doesn't help that. So I think that, this first discovery of the bacteria is similar like that. Lots of excitement. But now we're realizing it's a lot more complex than we first thought.
Absolutely.
So I loved how you were talking about, when you take an antibiotic and then you get maybe a yeast infection or candida, and that's because that's already in us. And these organisms, they just grow until they bump into somebody, right?
Yes.
They if you they can stay put and have their proper role and their proper number, but when you kill off the guards or the buddies, then they go where they're not supposed to go and they outnumber the good bacteria. For example, I know in Canada, where I'm from, when we were given antibiotics, our family doctor used to also give us probiotics.
Yes.
So is that something that you're seeing with the increased use of antibiotics over the last few decades, do you think that has contributed to the imbalance of our microbiome?
Absolutely, you are absolutely correct. In fact, you will be happy to know I just published a paper in March where we compared narrow spectrum antibiotic, a new compound called sericycline, with broad spectrum antibiotic, which is minocycline. Okay? And what we found, we wanted to see which one is a microbiome friendly, you know? And
Mm.
lo and behold, we took all these germs that live in our gut and we expose them to the two drugs. And what we notice is the narrow spectrum, which really targeting, like for example, sericycline is used greatly for acne or gram-positive organisms as well. It really had very low activity. In other words, it did not kill as much as the minocycline, which is a broad spectrum antibiotic. So, as you mentioned, when these organisms living there together, they are happy, then what we do something either whether it's the antibiotic, which is the best example, or what we eat. We feed the wrong bugs. So, in when
Oh,
we are in balance, everybody is playing happily. It's like I always say, it's like Sandbox. Kids come playing in Sandbox. If they are playing
yes.
very nice, we are all as parents are very happy. And then lo and behold, you have a bully in the sandbox. Guess what happened? Which is a pathogen, okay? But microbes that is pathogen that can cause infection. Then the whole thing goes out of whack and the parents are not happy. So that's exactly what happened if we don't make sure we have balanced microbiome. And just to explain about this, when you have balanced microbiome in your body, each of these all microbes live in harmony, okay? And they help each other, and they actually, in actual, they work with our body to make us feel much better. Also, because they are playing nicely together, we don't have as much inflammation. And the inflammation is at the heart of all different diseases,
Everything.
which you know it better than me. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, and the beneficial organisms are quite happy and doing what they have to do. Now, what happens if we go and take antibiotic, as you say, or we start eating all these Western diet, which is rich with meat, rich with the saturated fatty acids and other things, sugar, for example, refined sugar. Then we give the opportunity for the good bugs. And an example which we've been talking about is Candida. Candida is there. Everybody is afraid of Candida, but I tell them, no, no, listen. Candida, like 50% of our people have Candida as normal flora colonizer. They don't do anything. The problem when you kill the guards, as you mentioned, which is lactobacillus, and bifidobacterium, these are the good organisms. We kill them, and guess what? The policeman gone, and Candida takes have a field day. So that's really the
Yeah.
difference between the two.
So you can feed the wrong guys, but I think that you're mentioning this like this sad diet, the standard American diet
Yes.
that is actually spreading to all kinds of other countries. What we are also doing with the standard American diet is we're starving our good guys, right? Because fiber and prebiotics. I always tell my patients, you can plant the most amazing seeds, but if you never water it, you never have good fertilizer, you don't have good soil, you don't have nitrogen, you don't have worms, you're going to have to replant over and over and over, and you'll never actually have a proper functioning garden that produces anything.
I love this
So,
example.
what are some of the superfoods to feed our good guys?
You know, I mean, first of all, I want to talk about your example. It's beautiful with respect to the garden. I always tell people, listen, balancing the microbiome is in your hand. It's like when we now the summer is here and the spring just gone. We need to see roses. We feed it. We give it the right food. And we try to kill the weeds. Otherwise, we cannot enjoy the roses. So it's in our hand. And one of it is the food. as you mentioned. So good food, like for example, fibers you mentioned, which you have in oatmeal, in unripened bananas, in sweet potatoes, why are these good? Because they feed the beneficial microbes. Our friends who keep us healthy, they love this fiber. Okay, and that's one thing. The other thing, we talk about proteins. Let's use more plant-based proteins. I also love eating fish, for example. I love salmon, for example, which you have good proteins, good the omega-3, fatty acids, uh, and also you have cruciferous vegetables, which has a lot of antioxidant, it has anti-inflammatory. So all of this will be fantastic. The other thing which I love are nuts. I'm nuts about about
You're nuts about nuts.
about nuts, about pistachio in particular. Pistachio is a great nut because it has been, the studies have shown that if you take it, it will rebalance your microbiome. You know, the other thing, garlic. Garlic is great, and I published 3 papers many years ago where I showed that garlic can kill candida. Basically, it inhibits the proteins in candida. So,
What?
honestly, I have a long story about garlic, but maybe we can talk
It's
later.
more than just for vampires.
Yes, definitely. That's the beauty of it, So,
So let me ask you a question about garlic because I do a lot of food sensitivity tests on my
yeah,
patients. The more I do, the more I realize that not everybody is the same.
yes,
And I do have a lot of patients, including my husband, who has reflux when they eat garlic, but he doesn't if I cook the garlic
yes, yeah,
first.
yeah.
So do the benefits remain if you're cooking your garlic?
I think it will remain, but with cooking also, especially this, it's good to cook it, but don't overkill it. It's like don't make it
Right.
uh, very very uh, too much
Sauteed
heat,
brown little
sauteed
bits.
brown.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That does not work very well. But otherwise, yes, it is still beneficial. Turmeric, for example, that's another thing you can have. And apple cider vinegar is great. Provided you
Oh,
dilute.
that's a good way to
Yeah,
start the morning.
yeah, yes, exactly. So all of these are good for beans, for example, especially you talked about
Yeah,
Mexico. Beans are a really great source of these fibers as well.
they are. And people don't realize that the beans and legumes, if you have a hard time with them, with digesting them, you can actually soak them. And when they start to sprout, you can use them the exact same way as the recipe calls for. But your bean is now sort of just as much, if not more, a plant, and you will have a lot easier time digesting it and absorbing it. So
Oh, that's
just laying it out flat with some water, for several days until it starts to sprout is so easy. I'm also a big fan of nuts. In my book, The Hormone Secret, I found a bunch of research that said that, taking into consideration everything else, the people that ate nuts lived longer.
yes.
Like, just
Now what
period.
I tell you something in the morning. Like I'm an early riser, so I eat about 6 o'clock, 6:30. Then I come to work, and by 9:30 I feel hungry, so I take nuts. And then at lunch I take fruits and this sort of thing. Tomatoes, I love tomatoes, and this way you are balancing the day, and then in the evening you can have nice meal and enjoy it. Provided you think about whole food, the mono and unsaturated fats, is very, very important, and mono and polyunsaturated fats. So all of this will help you. What you need to cut, which sometimes we don't think about, is sugar. Sugar, we eat so much sugar. Refined sugar is not a good idea, you know? So
No,
you have
it
to cut.
feeds the wrong guys.
Exactly. And Candida, by the way, loves it. So
Yeah.
that's why one thing which we need to talk about with respect to complete sort of the whole picture is vitamins. Vitamins are really also important, especially, for example, vitamin D3. Vitamin
Yeah.
D3 have been shown to reduce protobacteria, which is one of the phylum present in our gut, which is pro-inflammatory. It means it causes inflammation. Okay, so vitamin D3 is great for that, as well as fibers will reduce the protobacteria, which is really a red flag, as I mentioned, for inflammation. Now,
Yeah.
the other thing, it will be good to have vitamin A, B, and C, really very important for Candida, to keep Candida under control as well. So you are taking care of both bacteria and the fungus, as we said.
I have a protocol for my patients that have a Candida overgrowth, and
Yeah,
it's really simple. It has three components to it. You have to starve it,
yes.
kill it, and overcrowd it.
I love
That's
that.
it.
I love that.
That's
Yes,
it. So
yes.
no sugar, nothing that turns to sugar, some herbs that, and combination things to kill it so that it's not just one way. Some of the medications just have one mechanism of action, and our organisms can become smart and out maneuver that. So getting an armamentarium of a variety, and then crowd it out with getting the good guys back in place and
Ex-
shoving them back into their corner. And that's it. That's really it. But I think that people forget that these are long growing organisms. Anybody who've had toe fungus knows that how long it takes. So how
oh,
long would you say people really ought to stick to a candida reducing diet protocol? Is it 3 months? Is it a year? What's your recommendation?
I really find like 3 months will be very reasonable for that. It's really
Yeah.
reasonable. You had enough time to do two things. Number one, you are gonna build the beneficial organisms which keep Candida under control. And as you said, you are starving Candida, which by that time it will go down. Once we have a lot of lactobacillus, uh, that will be fantastic. And then because you are feeding them with all these good fibers and whatever, and then we'll keep Candida also by starving it, not too much sugar, like you mentioned, good protein, plant-based proteins, the vitamins we mentioned. I think 3 months should do it. But sometimes a person has to try it. Like a lot of the time, I'm sure you need to listen to your body. To
Yeah.
me, 3 months is good, and you should have that under control.
Not everybody's body has read the textbook. And
Yeah,
sometimes it does its own thing. So I was like, okay, well, this is the average, but let's trust but verify.
yes,
You might be
exactly.
longer. So
Yes.
we just have to customize it for
Uh,
you. I'm going to ask you a question. Part of what we do on this podcast is we bust myths. There's so many myths. Don't eat salt ever. It's going to raise your blood pressure. Don't eat fat ever, or don't eat eggs ever. It's going to raise your cholesterol. There's all these myths. And one of the things that I've heard that isn't a well known myth, but I see it circulate, a couple times a year, is that the root of many, if not all, cancers is fungus. Have you
yeah.
heard that?
You know, this is very interesting because, as you know, I am uh, been in fungus for over 40 years. Okay, so
Yeah, you're an expert. That's why I
I,
wanted to ask.
I direct the Center for Medical Mycology. Apart from my shift to the microbiome, I always I make people laugh. I say I love fungus, because it makes it gives me good living. So let's go back to your question. You know, uh, before studies to try to see the relationship between cancer and fungi were not very well really published. Now, with the microbiome, if you think about it, there are a number of studies to show that fungi play a role in cancer. Like, for example, the best example is colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer have been shown by people from Johns Hopkins that it has a fungal element. Okay. Now, pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer, guess what? we are seeing that there is a relation with a yeast called Malassezia. In fact, a friend of mine here at Case Western, she's biomedical engineering, we are working together to try to understand this. How can
Is
we
that the same Malesthesia fervor that affects people's skin?
scalp? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and the
yes,
patches.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
So maybe when you're presenting with that on your skin, it's really
yeah,
overblooming.
yeah. And the other thing
And
with
this was pancreatic cancer link.
yes, pancreatic cancer link, there is definitely, it is there. Now we are trying to see how can we do something to control that. And that's why they came to me, they say, look, we got to collaborate. You are a fun guy, help us. I said, sure, sure. And that's what we were working. You know, the other thing, I am fortunate because I am at university hospitals in Cleveland. We have Sideman Cancer Center and also Case Western Reserve University. You have the Cancer Comprehensive Center, you know, at Case.
Yeah.
And what they did, both the hospital and the university, they supported the microbiome core. And what they said, we support you provided you do some studies, pilot studies with cancer specialists to try to see the,
Okay.
I said, hey, I say I'm game, you know what, I'll do it. And so now what we do, we did a number of studies, okay, where we show, I helped cancer specialists, to see what is the imbalance, what is the dysbiosis in a given cancer, okay? And
Wow.
based on that, we found some of them to have fungi involved. Okay, so now we have the proof of concept that it could be there. Now we are putting NIH grant, National Institute of Health grants, to try to get some funding for that. Okay, so that we hopefully in the coming 5 to 10 years we'll be able to show this relation. And another thing, you touched upon a subject I love because I've been working with a friend of mine. Her name is Caris Ang, Dr. Caris Ang. She is at the Cleveland Clinic, and we published a paper on tongue cancer. So what she did, we took
On what cancer?
the tongue in the mouth.
Oh, oh, so just tongue or like tongue esophageal or
No, we looked at the tongue, just tongue. And
okay.
she provided samples where we have from affected versus unaffected areas. And guess what? We found that there is imbalance in both bacteria and fungi, you know.
Wow.
So it's let me put it this way. I don't want to say everything because of fungus, no, but at least we are starting to gain insight into the fact that really you need to look at both bacteria and fungi in certain situations may play a role, you know.
Well, and this is huge because like you said, this is part of the prevention. So if somebody, in as this research and the information is gathered and becomes, verified through the amazing work that you're doing, it's kind of like finding so you've got an enemy called cancer, and it's like finding that enemy when it's just gathering its troops before it even attacks. So you could dissipate its ability to attack because you're finding it not at early stages. You're finding it when it's thinking about doing it.
Yes, yes,
Oh my
exactly.
gosh, so
And
cool.
that's the beauty now. Like I always say, the microbiome studies passed in through 3 phases. The first phase, we just wanted to see what is there, what sort of organisms are there in different conditions, in health as well as in condition, diseases and this sort of thing. Then we started to say, okay, what they are doing. So we know they are there, what they are doing, and now the exciting phase is how can we do something about it, which is
Right,
treatment and prevention. Okay, and
right.
so that's the exciting thing which we are really uh, into it, where we are collecting data. As you mentioned, Biome does gut testing, and in this gut testing, we have people send us their samples to look at their gut microbiome, and we are now collecting cohorts with different conditions, health conditions, and then once we know what's the dysbiosis, then you will start to say, okay, how I can fix it.
Are you ready to transform your wellness routine? Picture stepping into a sauna that not only reaches 185 degrees, but does so using both infrared and traditional steam technology, working together for the ultimate detox and sauna experience. No more choosing between one or the other. With Finnmark Designs, you get both. We have partnered with Finnmark Designs, the highest rated sauna manufacturer, to bring you the absolute best. Finnmark produces saunas that are built to last over 25 years, crafted with antimicrobial Western Canadian cedar and equipped with UL-listed infrared heaters, ensuring that the experience is both safe and luxurious. This isn't just a sauna, it's an investment in your health, vitality, and peace of mind. When you choose Finnmark Designs, you're joining thousands of satisfied customers who've made the change and are feeling the benefits every day. Ready to upgrade your biology with a sauna? Go to upgradedbiology.com/sauna. Finnmark Saunas, where luxury, reliability, and wellness come together. I reached out to you because of your work, which is vast in the area of autism and the microbiome, and what we're, the listeners want to know that we're working on a partnership here in this clinical trial to have one of the arms be the addition of a very specific probiotic that was developed by Dr. Ghannoum after seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of samples of children with autism and analyzing what's the same and what's different in their gut microbiome compared to normal development of other cohorts. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the work that you have done in that autism space, and then how you came up with a specific probiotic to kind of replace or meet that need, because it's super exciting.
Well, thank you very much about this. I'm really excited like you, and I'm really so excited about us working and collaborating together. That will be really great fun. And I really hope that we will be able to help kids with autism. So how we started is, people started reaching out when we talked about the gut testing. We're sending their samples from their kids with autism. So then my son Afif, who is the CEO of the company, reached out to the community and he said, listen, we would love if you have kids with autism, if you can send us those samples, and then if you have other kids with not autistic, send us those as well. Then we'll be able to compare the two and we'll be able to find out what is the imbalance. Remember, it's all about imbalance or the dysbiosis. Okay,
Well,
so
let's stop for a moment there, because we need to share with the listeners why the way that was done is so important. So, our gut microbiome can change based on what we eat, what we don't eat, whether we have pets, if we live on the ocean beside a forest or in a city. So what you did is you created a control of the cohorts, the control of the participants, by getting people who had the same food, the same living experience, the same pets if they had them. One difference was normal development, the other was autism. So that's brilliant. I don't know anybody else who has bothered to do that extra step. That's amazing.
you point very, very important, really important factor that we follow. It's like what you said, because we know food can affect it, geography can affect it, and genetics, of course, can affect it. So having members of the same family, as you nicely put it, it really takes care of some of these limitations. Okay, and we believe it or not, when I first started working in the microbiome, I did similar study in Crohn's disease patients, and we got from the same family, as well as we used another control, like with and without Crohn's, and we had another control living in the same geographic area, and that allowed us to really develop a probiotic that can address the Crohn's. So now we use similar model with autism. Okay, we are not as advanced as we are in Crohn's, or at least digestive symptoms, But
Yet.
yeah, not yet, exactly. Now, the good news, as you said, people responded so fast, sending samples from their autistic kids versus non-autistic. We analyzed it. We found what's the difference, and what we found is very interesting. One thing we found, there is one bacteria that is important for fiber, breaking down fiber. It seems to be missing there. And
Mm,
another one that can form, that really aggressive organism, it's over really the abundance or the level of it is very, very high. So then we said, okay, we know what's the imbalance. What can we do about it? So we went and screened a set of probiotic strains, about 25 different strains, and we wanted to find those strains that are able to break down fiber at the same time can affect the aggressive bacteria. Okay? And that's how we, out of 25 strains, we had three that they seem to work very nicely on that. And now what we are doing is we took the aggressive bacteria. We wanted to see, can we reproduce this in an animal model? And lo and behold, when we added that bacteria to the animals, believe it or not, like I had one of my staff, great worker with the animals. She took a video. She said, I saw them what they are doing. They are doing repetitive action. One mouse was going around and biting his tail, going around. And then, the other group, they're grooming. And, usually they groom maybe 2, 3 seconds. These
yeah.
guys, they kept grooming for minutes. So I said,
Huh.
oh my goodness, this is very interesting because it's similar to what
Yeah.
we see in kids. So now
Right.
so that's what we are now doing is, okay, we have this model. I'm gonna work with people who have really autism core because they are better than me in understanding the behavior. I don't know about that. So once we have this study, then we would like to do the experiment where we got this new formulation, give it to these animals, and see how much we can interfere with all this, their digestive health as well as some of these repetitive movement. And that's what
Uh,
will get us ready, hopefully, because we know these strains are generally regarded as safe, so they are safe strains. We then go and test them with you in uh, kids, and hopefully we will discover something really helpful for them.
so, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but, it affects our immune function, right?
Sure, sure.
It affects our nervous system. It affects our brain.
Yes.
It affects inflammation. So I don't think that there's any part about being alive that it doesn't affect.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, and especially with the gut-brain axis, as we say, since we are talking about autism
Well,
or
and that's the great
Alzheimer.
lead in for that.
Yes,
So tell
yes.
us about the gut brain microbiome access and, with Alzheimer's and dementia and brain fog and now people who are suffering from long hauler syndrome or post COVID, that their brain fog and things like that it's a thing that's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yes.
So we need to be looking at the gut microbiome. Why?
Why? Because, as you said, there is communication between the gut microbes and our brain. For a long time, what we thought that the brain tells us everything, okay? But in fact, now we know it's
Even tells us
bi-directional.
lies.
Yeah, that's the truth. So really, now it's bi-directional. The brain talk to our gut, and the gut, which is the microbes there, and the microbiome talks to the brain. So that's what's the new. And in fact, we have evidence, long time ago that the gut-brain axis was first discovered by an army surgeon who examined gastric juice secreted by the intragastric fistula. And what he found that intestinal function was related to mood. So that was the first evidence for this relationship. Okay. And really, this two-way communication is an active process. It helps the brain development. the physiology as well as psychology and behavior. And really specifically, the gut microbiome play a critical role in our regulation of our mood and anxiety. I wrote a paper recently. It's called Microbiome Based Approach to Manage Depression During COVID, because you know how many people
Wow.
with that. I published it.
Oh,
I think
depression and anxiety.
it's
Oh,
unbelievable. Like more than 80% of people suffering from that, and we showed that how this really communication we can help by changing the diet, by probiotic, by doing exercise is very important, and
can you send that to us so we can put it
sure.
in the show notes? Oh, that would be great. I think it would bless so many people's lives to know that they can be the CEO, that this
Yeah.
is in their control.
Yes, 100%. And really, the good thing is I can tell you to make it also easier for the listeners, if they put my name, Ghannoum, and they look at microbiome and depression, it will come out. You'll have a link, and it is what you call open access. People can access it
Oh, good. To
easily.
the public.
Yeah, it's
Perfect.
very easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it interesting that we say things like I had a gut feeling
Yes.
when we're making a decision. It's almost like there's some ancient wisdom in us that knew that the gut had to do with our
Yes.
brain
Yes.
and deciding things.
Yes, it's like Hippocrates when he says everything starts in the gut, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Uh,
Well, and I do tell my patients, especially for weight loss, that your brain, your gut, your microbiome can essentially produce neurotransmitters to give you thoughts and cravings. And so if you have fed microbiome that thrives on sugar, and then you all of a sudden try and change that, those bugs are not going to go down easily or quietly. They're going to start emitting these communications, feed me, feed me, feed me. And, it's almost like an addiction that they're just giving you these cravings, these overpowering continuous thoughts
ups,
until they're dead. And you will hear people who have cravings who say, well, it was really, really hard at the beginning, but then after I stopped, after a couple, 3 weeks, then I didn't have my cravings anymore. And I have to think that that's partly to do with the gut microbiome changing.
yes, absolutely. I mean, that's not only showed this the microbiome and the relationship. We even now know that the vagus nerve, for example, connect the brain to the visceral organs, is the primary really connection between the brain and the gut. And you can see very
Wow. So
nice.
the Vegas,
Yeah, yes, the vagus.
gosh.
Yeah, it's really
Well, and then let's just explain the vagus nerve to our listeners in case they don't know. That big muscle underneath our lungs, and you want to share the function for our listeners and why you're mentioning it as such an aha, the vagus nerve.
because it is able to affect the microbiome, and they do it by modulating the microbiome. It is able to affect fat storage and energy, the GI barrier function, the epithelial lining, also
Oh,
general low grade inflammation also is affected, and the increased stress activity. All of these are really affected by the vagus nerve. In fact, now we know that this could be a big opportunity. If we are able to control this, we'll be able to come out with a way to reduce a lot of these diseases.
wow. And the vagus nerve is easy to stimulate with breathing.
Yes, yes. It's
How incredible.
I tell you, we have so many things to learn, but it's exciting time to be here. People
It
ask me,
sure is.
"Are you gonna retire?" I say, "No, no, no. I'm enjoying myself. I'm not retiring."
Yeah, well, and you're also changing the future of medicine, so please don't retire yet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so, so much. Is there one last tip that you can give our listeners so that they can take care of their microbiome and increase the good balance?
I think the take home message is really partly borrowed from you, which is it is all in your hand. It's like the garden. A good example you gave the garden. So you can do it. It's all in your hand. And there are simple stuff you need to do. Number one, diet. Look at your diet, try to change it away from the westernized diet with all its high sugar, high salt, and whatever. And to me, when it comes to diet, moderation is the secret. So if you are moderate in your stuff with the diet is great. Number two, you need to have a lifestyle to exercise. Again, don't kill yourself. Just do half an hour. You go take out a walk. I love it because I have a dog. His name is, of all things, Prince. And I
Oh,
love to take him for a walk when I go now home. It, you are walking lovely greenery, lovely atmosphere, and you relax, and he's basically taking me for a walk. It's not like I take him because he's always running, this guy. So anyway, so exercise moderately, you eat the right stuff, and then try to reduce the stress. It's very critical, you know. You can do everything, and if you are stressed, severely stressed, is not going to help you. So what you need to do, please do some meditation, some yoga. This will really help you, and I am sure you will balance your gut and feel well.
those are great tips. Well, thank you so, so much for being with us and sharing your wisdom. Thank you, everybody, for sharing with us your most valuable commodity, which is your time. And remember, health is just as contagious as disease. So be sure to pass this episode on to those that you love, and we can raise up everybody's health and wellness. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned next week. Have a beautiful day.